Ladies and gentlemen, welcome you all back after the lunch. We are now heading towards the technical session 3 on harnessing the potential of multimodal logistics parks. I would request everybody to please take your seats before we start the program. This session will be moderated by Colonel Shubhransh Srivastav. Colonel Srivastav is leading corporate affairs and public policy for DP World in the Indian subcontinent for their varied business across 5 container port terminals on India's east and west coast container freight station, free trade warehousing zones, inland multimodal freight station, container train operators, cold chain and express cargo service within India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Myanmar, and Iran. Prior to this, he was deeply involved in synthesis of public policy with the Ministry of Home Affairs, where he as the Director Operation and Planning, led formulation of policy impinging national security, designing systems with multi-level engagement and cross-functional coordination with public, private, and foreign stakeholders. He was also responsible for regional operation and organizational restructuring across states, optimizing processes with ingenious entrepreneurial solution. He also has a rich experience in varied leadership roles for over 32 years as a career logician and with the Indian Army, majority of which has been in the realm of air logistics, warehousing, supply chain, and express logistics operation in different regions spread across Jammu and Kashmir, Uttarakhand, Assam, Ladakh, Karnataka, and Chandigarh. We welcome you to our program and we request you to be on the dais and introduce the esteemed panelists of this session. Over to you, Mr. Srivastav.
Namaskar. It is my privilege to be here amidst such celebrated people and very qualified individuals with my humble background. And I have been enriched in the earlier part of the interactions in the presentation which were made. They were extremely informative for me at least. And I'm sure we'll continue in the same vein with the celebrated list of panelists which I have with myself. So I was just sharing with somebody that the good part of being a moderator is that you can look intelligent, do very little, but come out looking very good in the end. So with this is the end game, I request my esteemed panelists to join me today, please. Starting with Mr. Naresh Kumar, a name which does not need introduction in that sense. Mr. Naresh Kumar has worked extensively with the Indian Railways. Please have a seat. Concor and the Pipavav Railway Corporation, both in the middle and the senior level of management. And he hails from the Indian Railway Service of Mechanical Engineers, 1989 batch. And to many who would know, he's been the architect of the double-stack container trains and the double-stack dwarf container trains on the Indian Railways, which have resulted in substantial reduction in the unit cost of transportation for the container segment. And after leaving the Indian Railways, he, as an entrepreneur, set up his own factory, which is well known with the name of Kalyani Cast Tech Limited, which is a public limited company, which is engaged extensively in steel casting, manufacturing of various types of containers for export and domestic customers. And it's a matter of pride for us that he has patented 3 types of special containers which are being popularized in the Indian Railways and are helping logistic companies in reduction of their transport costs. Our second esteemed panelist for the day is Mr. Chandranath Dey. May I kindly request him to join us if he's here? So, is Mr. Dey here? All right. Till the time he fetches up, I think he's still enjoying his lunch. I'm sorry. Yeah, please do. Sorry. Yeah, please, Mr. Dey, have a seat. Mr. Chandranath Dey is the head of operations, business development, and industrial consulting and integrated logistics and industrial with the JLL. He's helmed several practices within logistics and industrial verticals with JLL. He ensured smooth operations and positive relations with global clients, large-scale developers, government bodies, and his counterparts in all the JLL offices across the world. And his role includes securing businesses across India and internationally for the manufacturing, warehousing, cold storages, private freight terminals, inland container depots, SEZs, FTWZs, and allied asset classes. He has an extensive experience of almost 18 years in industrial and logistic real estate, and he also drives implementation of PropTech tools within the team. He also leads the industrial and logistic related advisory and research consulting assignments in his team. His key experiences include nearly 230 projects spread across the length and breadth of India, Sri Lanka, Sultanate of Oman, United Arab Emirates, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He has worked with some of the largest Fortune 500 companies of the world, private equity funds and developers in the industrial and logistic domain, and we are very happy to have him with us to discuss about multimodal logistic parks. Last but not the least is Mr. Amit Malik, the Senior Vice President with Adani Logistics. May we have him here, please? All right, we'll just wait out for him. Mr. Malik is the Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Adani Logistics, Ahmedabad, to ensure that the assets of the organization, that is both rail, logistics, parks, warehouses, are optimized. New business development by providing end-to-end solutions and ensuring that the bottom line is protected. Ensuring that the organization mindset transforms from a standalone product selling to integrated selling. He has also evolved processes, system with relation to sales, contracting, pricing, cost, so that the dashboards are available on a container level basis, ensuring that the company is agile as an organization in taking real-time actions and decisions. Developing the leadership pipeline in brief, that is, and from a transformation from a container rail player to an integrated infrastructure logistic provider in the Indian subcontinent. We are delighted to welcome once again Mr. Amit Malik, the Senior Vice President Adani Logistics, to join us in the panel here, please. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic for today is harnessing the potential of multimodal logistic parks. And as we have alluded in the first part of the session, there have been references which have been made to the cost of logistics without getting into the statistics of it. I may like to see that they still remain formidable within our country. And perhaps one of the ways of reducing that in many ways is where MMLPs come in handy in great measure. And conceptually, the very fragmented modal mix which we had, or should I say a more biased modal mix which we have in a country which is biased more towards road, less towards rail and other sustainable forms of transportation, it remains a challenge for us to figure out the best mix. There itself is again somewhere where MMLPs will come to play a very leading role in the days to come. Importantly, coupled with that is the fact that the road infrastructure in itself, despite the over-dependence on the road infrastructure, we also find that the whole infrastructure is evolving as we speak. Of course, from 12 kilometers per day, we have come a long way to making 29 kilometers a day of highways every day. That's quite an achievement from the Ministry of Road and Transport and Highways. And they are sustaining with that momentum. And with that, we should see MMLPs becoming a tangible force in the days to come. And in the earlier part, we also had a discussion on the Gati Shakti, where the ministries have aligned or are in the process of aligning seamlessly to create that regulatory framework which is essential to ensure that the MLPs fructify in the manner in which they have been planned. And like any novel endeavor, there are going to be challenges up ahead. There are going to be multiple issues which will confront both the central ministries, the state governments, as also the industry once we partake in this exercise. And with that as a preamble, we would like to delve straight into various aspects of the multimodal logistic parks. And I may now invite Mr. Naresh Kumar to kindly say a few words before we get into the discussion bit with the others. Thank you.
Namaskar. Good evening, good afternoon. Basically, it is very difficult to keep the people engaged after the lunch. But trust me, I am presenting such a simple ideas which has got long-lasting effects not only on logistic cost but other aspect of railway working also. So please bear with me after lunch. I try myself that you remain engaged with me. Basically, today's my theme, as morning people were discussing that logistic cost is 13%, 14%, whatever percentage it is, but trust me, it is much higher than even most of the countries. Especially railway logistic, if you consider it a per ton basis, we are much higher than China, we are higher than Russia, we are higher than any of the developed railway system. You consider one container comes from Canada to Mundra port in $2,000, but moving from Mundra port to Delhi cost me almost $1,500. So that is the kind of surface cost we have got, and we have to reduce this cost. That is our theme, and I am presenting some of the systems which have already resulted in reduction of cost substantially, and we keep on going innovating new things. If you see the first photograph, that is of 2006, Indian Railways has started first containers train with double stack containers on the wagons. This is the most efficient system which one can think of. Instead of 90 TUs, these trains carry 180 TUs, and moving between northern hinterland to Port of Pipavav and Mundra. At present, 20 to 25 trains are moving per day. If you had not introduced this system, Indian Railways would have lost this business long back. Mind you, this system I have introduced after joloing so much of the bureaucracy and babudam in railway system, and naysayers are many, and yes-sayers are very less. So after that, I got the strength of various high decision-making people, so we could introduce this system. If you see the second system, that is very recent one. This has also got long-lasting effect on the logistic cost. This system we have introduced not very recently in July 2018 after struggling with railways for 10 years. So this is the train which can run on double stack mode even under normal wire which is 5.5 meter above the rail level. And this has given a very big flip that on the wagon we can increase the volume by 67%. So the medium light and the light cargo can also load up to the train load of the wagons. So basically you may be knowing that railway generally costing is based on tonnage basis. So unless they fix their tonnage per wagon, unless you come up to that tonnage, the rates become dead rates, and that is substantial in many of the cargoes. So with the help of these increasing volumes, we could reach up to the payload available for the wagons. And this has given a lot of substantial saving in the cargo which are very light and medium light cargoes. Presently, these trains are moving between Jamnagar to Rewari, Haryana, and Jamnagar to Vapi, there is a place near to Mumbai. So 20 to 25 trains are running on this system. And we have got interaction with ministries and Minister of Railways. Now they are making all the routes on railways which has got potential for container movement to suit these kind of trains. Or both the DFCs can move these kind of trains. So this is the another thing which, and I have been basically, we have patented these kind of containers and we are manufacturer of these containers also. Second is the dwarf container we have discussed. The third is that a cubed container, smaller container, which we have devised for transportation of parcel cargo. We call it LTL cargo, less than truckload cargo. So these containers are very beneficial for that. Even they can reduce the cost, overall cost from 30 to 35% on per ton basis. So with this background, I will just move to the next slide. Basically, I am of the opinion that for the domestic transportation, the ISO containers like 20 feet, 40 feet containers, they may not be suitable for our requirement, because the volume available on ISO containers and the loadability of ISO container is much lower than our desired values. On railway point of view, we move around 23 ton axle load, so each and every wagon can have 72 ton of payload. 72 means that 36 ton each containers can be gone up to, while ISO standard says only 30.5 tons. Similarly, you may be aware that from the morning itself you have been listening about NRP, National Rail Plan, and that Gati Shakti and all these things. So railway has got big plans to move 3,000 million tons of cargo per year, that originating cargo on railway wagon by 2030, which will constitute 40 to 45% of the share from the present 20 to 20% share. So which is going to be 100% increase. Now railway has got a very well planned system. If they want to use only the conventional kind of system, from 1500 to 3000 they have to double the railway lines if they are not going innovatives. So if they have to double the railway lines, within 75 years of our independence, we could create hardly 10,000 or 15,000 route kilometer additional, that's all. But if you have to double it, then you can imagine how many years you want. So railway has to go in an innovative mode so that the per train tonnage has increased, the trains becomes faster, so that the productivity of the trains increases. At present, the average speed of goods train is 18 to 19 kilometer per hour, which is slightly higher than the Belgadi speed. So with this speed, the productivity of the assets is very, very low compared to other railway systems like Chinese railways or even Russian railways, American railways. So we have been emphasizing that we should increase the speed of the trains from at least 18, 19 to 40 kilometer. Your asset utilization of track, your asset utilization of rolling stock increases substantially. So I am of the opinion that let the container wagon, which is the only wagon on Indian railways which can run 100 kmph, be used as the base wagon. And you customize, instead of a wagon, you should have a special containers for specific cargo requirement. So you create the special containers instead of the special wagons for the cargo requirement, so that you can utilize the highest speed of the container wagons and the cargo is moved more efficiently. Your productivity increases many times. So we not only manufacture containers, we advise our customers that you should buy this kind of containers so that your per ton cost become viable compared to other mode, and the movement of cargo can be more efficient. So this creates win-win situation for both even railways, the customers, the logistic providers and all. So as in the beginning I have told that this double stack container movement with ISO containers and the dwarf container, these are basically my ideas, and this has been implemented very successfully on Indian railways. And with this double stack trains, railway offers you 25% discount on their haulage. So that is a total 25% discount from your cost itself. Similarly, these dwarf containers, they offer additional 18% over the about 25%. So if you compare running a single stack train and running a double stack train, there is a difference of 30 to 35% on the railway charges itself. Forget about the equipment uses, that per ton basis, your wagon utilization, your path utilization, and your last mile, first mile terminal cost reduces substantially. Next, please. So basically, this is Kalyani Castek. This is a public limited company. As I told you, we innovate, design, develop, and manufacture. Basically, 3 years back, we have got lot of ideas in my mind that what to do with the container. We don't have any factory, we don't have anything. So we thought, we started on a very small scale. Ki whatever fitur are there in our mind, let us make it and then prove it. So with that idea, we have started manufacturing at a very small scale. And then we found that whatever we are saying, whatever the things are coming to our mind, can be implemented on railways in a big way. So then we have started really thinking about going for manufacturing of the containers. At present, we are the biggest manufacturer of containers. We have manufactured 1,600 containers in this financial year, which is 1.5 months is still left. I am not proud of it. We should be able to, as a India, we should have these figures in 1,60,000 containers at least. So then only we will be able to compete with Chinese companies who are making 99% container at this point of time. So our factory is around 80 kilometers away from the IGI airport, and it is just adjacent to DP World ICD at Pali, and it is dead on the western dedicated freight corridor. So we have got direct connectivity with the gateway port of Mundra and Pipavav. The factory is in the midst of big industrial areas like Dharuheda, Khuskera, Bhiwadi, Nimrana, Galot, etc., etc. Basically, why I'm saying is it is near to the industrial area, because in China, you see, it's the next export country. So whenever they make containers, they just provide the cargo also to take over, so that the freight cost and other related cost get saved. So we have got that locational advantage. Being in this industrial area, we can offer the cargo also to our customers, so that their cost becomes, that freight transport cost becomes nil. I am the only company in the world which has got integrated plant for manufacturing of the corner casting, which is the most, you can say, critical component of a container, that 8 corners you have got some casting element. So I am approved foundry for making this casting from Lloyd Register UK. So we have tried to integrate the components at the component level also, so that we can offer the best price at the cheapest rate. Similarly, we have developed for other cargo with other components which used to be imported, like door components, etc. We have developed our own dies, etc., and we have given to our vendors so that they can make for us ourselves. So we are contributing our bit towards the Atmanirbhar Bharat, because containers, as you may be aware, that 3-4 years back, all being imported from China. So we have contributed that, and we have also exported container in this financial year. So our capacity is around 17 containers a day. On 20th December 2021, Minister of Railways visited our company, our factory, along with around 200 railway officers from all over India, just to what innovative things we are doing over there. And he has appreciated whatever the innovative work we are doing himself, and he spent almost 2 to 3 hours in our factory and discussing various ideas which can benefit railways. Our company is approved by Indian Register of Shipping for manufacturing of containers, and they have issued some competency certificate. As I told you, that we are only approved source in India which can manufacture corner casting for these containers. So this is what we are discussing, that dwarf container. This dwarf container, as I told you, can run on double stack mode on normal OHE system. This has got dimensions of 40 feet by 8.5 feet. Normal container, ISO container is 8 feet width, but we have increased the width of this container by half a feet, and which is allowed even on Indian roads also. On Indian roads, you can have any moving trucks or any moving container up to 2600 millimeter, which is around 8.5 feet. So I have taken advantage of that. I have increased the width by 160 millimeter and reduced the height so that they can be double stacked even under normal wire system. So with this system, we have increased the volume by 67%, and I have used the air available under the OHE, which is not being serving any purpose. So with that, another salient feature of this container is that this is gross weight of 36 ton, so that I can match the 72 ton payload of the wagon. So 36 each, so 72 we can go up to, and we can load up to 32.5 ton of cargo inside it. The most significant and salient feature of this container is that the flooring, we have not used the normal ply. We have used the FRP in the flooring, which is of 9 millimeter thickness instead of 28 millimeter of the plywood. Another advantage this FRP has given to us is that it has reduced the tear weight of container by around 400 kg and increased my inside height by around about an inch. So that has got double advantage, that I needed inside height so that even the person can have 2 bags of 25 kg on the head and come out of it. You can do the operation with the help of forklift, loading or unloading of the bags. So this is basically, we have designed our own FRP system, and after a lot of research we could find out that this particular mix of catalyst and the glass wool should be used so that I can get the proper strength of the plywood. This has been done for the first time in the world. And mind you, from 4 years these containers are running with this system, not even a single FRP seat has been damaged. Not even a single FRP seat has, and this has been fixed in almost 500 containers. Another concept which we have given to railways is these dwarf containers can run in triple stack while moving on the western corridor and the ports or the hinterland suited for the double stack trains. This will basically give a real reduction in unit cost of transportation, because railway will charge you only 3 TUs and you will be able to carry 5 TUs per wagon. So based on my recommendation, Ministry has already started the trials. The oscillation trials are taking place. Some of the containers which are being manufactured by us, they are all special containers except one export order which we have done. This is a 25 feet long container, and this has got gross weight of 34 ton against 30.5 ton of the normal ISO containers. So this is again a product which is very useful for the light and medium light cargo. This is another special containers which we have been making for various our customers, side access containers. Again, this is also around 35 ton of gross weight. They can put 32 ton cargo inside it, and the beauty of this is they don't require any handling equipment to handle it. If you can load or unload the cargo from the side access doors. This is another container which we have made for this road railer, Kirloskar road railer. This is the container which has got highest volume of 84 cubic meter, which can be allowed on Indian roads and Indian railways. It has got width of 8.5 feet and height of 9.5 feet. Then another special container in which we are involved is for the bulk transportation of food grains, fly ash, clinker, soda ash, even coal you can transport in these containers. Presently, if you see, the bulk movement of food grain is being done by special wagons, which has got top loading system and bottom discharge system. So with this you require almost 1500 meter of railway line so that the wagon comes under the loading system and then keep going on up to the last length of the wagon. So you require around 1.5 kilometer long railway siding. But we have developed a system in which you don't require with the normal railway siding and etc. You can use that container system. And then railway wagon, it's very specific to that particular commodity. And you are at least wedded to that wagon for 35 years. If you want to divorce, not possible. In between, if you have got some technological advantages, you can't have it. So the container system provides you that kind of flexibility that if this particular product or this particular cargo is not there or it has gone out of the market, then you can switch over to other cargo. While the wagon does not have that kind of flexibility. And more compared to the normal conventional wagon system, the container offer you a damage-free, theft-free environment, so that that particular kind of tension you can avoid. So this is basically a container which we have tested for the fly ash. If you see there are two hatches on the roof, you can load the fly ash from the top and unload this fly ash by just tilting by 35 to 40 degree of the containers. The whole fly ash can be unloaded within 12 to 15 minutes. And this container can carry 33.5 ton of cargo, so which means almost 3,200 tons per tray. Another container which we are working on, if you can avoid that kind of tilting. So this is basically again top loading, and you can discharge from the side bottom through gravity. So this particular container you can use for fly ash, cement, soda ash, even food grain. All the bulk cargo can be for this particular container, you can use for that. So another, which in the intro I have said, that we have developed this utilization of, that unitization of less than truckload cargo. You see, the road has got the same kind of handicap for the less than truckload cargo, like first mile and last mile. First, the smaller truck or pickup kind of truck goes to the warehouse or the factory and collect the 1 ton, 2 ton of cargo, and then come to a consolidated point. From there, it gets unloaded from the smaller truck and put into the warehouse. From the warehouse, again, it goes to the longer truck, and the larger journey is done by that longer truck or heavier truck. And similar thing happens at the other end. Keeping that into mind, we have devised a container which can carry only 2.5 ton of cargo. And it can go to that factory or the warehouse where the smaller LTL cargo has to be collected. And from there you just bring it back. And instead of cargo being destuffed and put into the warehouse, you just put the containers down. And when you have got many such containers, you can load on the train or on the truck. So these containers can go along with the truck or the train. And similarly, you can repeat this thing at the unloading point. So we have considered for this a basic cargo of like the two-wheelers. At this point of time, railway does not provide any solution for the two-wheeler transportation. So with this, you can have 2,160 two-wheelers in a particular railway rake, which costing we have done between Chennai to Delhi, which are both are the hub for the two-wheelers. And it can give you at least 10 to 15% lower cost compared to existing road transportation. So this is the full complete cycle of the LTL cargo, that for the first mile you can use either the pickup or a 20-feet truck or a 40-feet trailer. So the dimensions are so chosen that the last mile and the first mile with the road is also optimized fully. So there is no basically space loss or no tonnage loss with this kind of system. And on per wagon, you see in the between you have got the 6 containers mounted on the wagon, and the 6 into 48 or 45, that much some small containers can go on a rail system. And this particular concept can work like a mail express hopping trains. On the mail express, you see at certain big stations, the passengers get down and then get in. Similarly, at some stations, you can take out these containers and fill up with the other containers. And in between, if you have got some requirement, you can keep doing that. Because everything is handled with the help of a forklift. You don't require special equipment for handling of this. You don't require any special yard or station terminal for handling of these containers. So now I am in the heavier section of these containers. We have produced 42-feet containers with a gross load of 67 tons, especially for transportation of the steel coils. In this container, if you see, there are 3 recesses for putting up the coils. And if you have got a smaller coils, then you can put on even on the plane surface of this. And there are almost 21 lacing hooks on each side. Wherever your coil is there, you can easily lace these coils without any issue. The hatches have got around 10 millimeter thick rubber sheet, which is of a very good rubber, so that your coils are not damaged with the contact with the steel with steel and friction and all. So to avoid that friction and damage to the coils, we have provided 10 millimeter thick the rubber sheet. And in the return, you can have the benefit of, as you know, there is a lot of movement of pipes and the slabs and etc., which are more than 40 feet long, slightly more than 40 feet long. So those cannot be accommodated in the 40 feet containers. But in this container, you can accommodate those kinds of products also. This is the heaviest container which we have produced. This container has got gross weight of 80 ton. People may ask, why 80 ton? As you are aware that both the DFCs, that Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor and the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor, are fit to run at 25 ton axle load. 25 ton axle load means each wagon is having the 4 axles, so you can go up to 100 tons of that per wagon. If I minus the 20 ton of the tare weight of the wagon, so this comes out to be 80 ton. So our customer wanted to have this kind of system. We have suggested they wanted to 72 ton. I said, why don't go up to 80 ton? Because sooner or later both the DFCs will get connected and you have got at least 5,000 kilometer run where you can have the OD points also. So we went for 80 ton. In this, the carrying capacity is around 73 ton. 7 ton is the weight of this particular container. So we can carry almost 3,500 steel coil on a rake. And each coil can, if you want to evenly distribute, you can have 24 metric ton of each coil put on these recesses. And in the return, as I told you, that we can have the longer pipes or slabs or billets, etc. in the return direction. We have provided the tarpaulin also for this covering of this roof, which is 950 GSM, which is a very good tarpaulin. We have tested for the water, shower test and everything. Nothing goes inside. So even if you want to transport stainless steel with the weatherproofing environment, you can provide with that. So this is basically, as I told you, we have exported around 360 containers to a shipping line called Silmar. We have represented to various government agencies and Ministry of Railways that this is a one of the order we got it, and we may not be lucky that we can get again. The simple reason is that we are not cost competitive with Chinese companies. Let me accept this very frankly. Because they have got high volume, they produce 1,000 containers a day, I produce 17 containers a day. So the economy of scale you can think of. Their cost of steel, which we have recently surveyed, is 45 rupees against 75 rupees, which is a special steel which we use for the container. The government helped them through 15% cost on their cost. They give PLI, productivity link incentive. And as I told you that China is a net exporting country, they provide cargo beside the container so that there is empty freight is not there. So we can work on volumes. Increasing volumes is not an issue for us. The issue is that how government can help help us in this item number 3, that PLI, there is a lot of talk going on, that there should be PLI in this sector also, but I don't know when it will materialize. At this point of time, there is this market is of around 11 to 12 million dollars. India, even if you target around say $1 billion initially, that comes out to be around 60 to 70,000 containers a year. And this can give job to at least direct job to at least 6,000 people. Sorry. So we are working on future project. These are the up till now we have been doing. So we have got some plan for the future also. We have developed a container which is in design stage at this point of time, which we can use it for the steel scrap in a very efficient way. As you know, with this new scrap policy, the old vehicles have to be scrapped. And now people have started making the scrap, that segregation and the crushing and all these things. So there are big plants are coming all over India. And scrap can move only by containers or road. It cannot move on railway wagons, because otherwise it will involve multiple handling. So we have developed one container which can be open topped when you want to load the cargo. And it has got both side doors. So just by tilting on either side, wherever the space available, you can unload this cargo within 10 to 15 minutes. And this particular system can carry almost 3,200 metric ton per train. Similarly, we are going for dwarf container which are 42 feet. Again, this system we are developing for transportation of pipe on railway system, which can give almost 50 to 60% reduction in the transportation cost. This is another system on which we are working, and RDSO is, Minister has asked RDSO to expedite this system. We have developed a container that is also in design stage, which is almost 3,600 meter wide, 3,600 millimeter wide, 12 feet wide. And top container is just like our dwarf container, and height is of the dwarf container. So in the bottom container, you can carry 2 parallel automobiles, like many of the SUVs and all, which are maybe around 1,600 to 1,650 millimeter wider. So you can have put 2 such auto cars, and in the top you can put 1. So without doing triple stacking, you are doing almost the triple stack using the double stack concept. With this system, you are increasing the capacity by 48%. And on the eastern and the western DFC, the capacity increase are much higher. This gives not only railways more revenue per train, but gives almost 12.5% or 35% reduction in the cost of transportation compared to the existing system. Again, this is the last thing, I will not bother you much. Basically, as you may be aware, by 2023 December, whole Indian railways, at least on braid gauge, will be electrified. And we wanted to use that OHE power for the refrigerated system of the containers. For that, the small container which I have discussed, LTL container, the small containers can be powered for refrigerated cargo or air-conditioned cargo. And some part of it can have dry cargo, some part of it can have refrigerated cargo. On this system also we are working on. Thanks a lot. If you have got any queries, please let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Naresh Kumar, for a very refreshing insight into Indian entrepreneurship. May I request Mr. Chandana Day to kindly give his views on today's topic. Thank you.
While they are setting up, let me quickly introduce my firm, JLL, Jones Lang LaSalle. We are a listed firm in New York Stock Exchange, close to around 19,000 people globally. In India, close to around 12,000 people in India as such, and what we are known better for is for real estate. When we say real estate and JLL, quite synonymous as people say. Most of the people do not know that we are equally dominant in the warehousing and logistics domain as well, and we do close to 35% of all transactions in warehouses in the country, close to around 13 to 15 million square feet annual transactions that we do. from e-commerce to 3PL to everybody you know and name, we work with them as such. But today, it's not about me or JLL, it's all about multimodal logistic parks and the potentials of multimodal logistic park. So I have a presentation which takes us through the golden period of India that is coming, right? Just a second. Next slide. The Amrit Kal. As we know, India at 75, from to now the next 25 years, it's all about things that's going to happen in the country which take us to the next league, a $5 trillion economy and many more, right? Many more milestones to come. So I have tried to capture a bit of what has happened in India in the logistics domain before we get into the MMLP stage, past, present and future as we call it. Past, it has been almost a roller coaster ride for the country when it comes to the logistics and industrial, not only that, the economy as well, right from the independence in 1947 to how there have been catalysts as well as dampeners, like we say, drivers and dampeners as we say, right? And right from the Make in India campaign when it started in 2019, then in recalibration in 2019 to Make in India 2.0, where several new changes were done in corporate tax regimes to our PLI incentives, PM Gati Shakti coming up in 2021, national single window system, national logistics policies. Of course, there are many dampeners, but what is happening and interesting today that we stand at the 5th largest global economy in the world. I think this deserves a round of applause from all of you. To India, right? And not only that, we are the 4th largest vehicle manufacturer in the world, right now probably 3rd, as I recall that we probably have surpassed one of another, our nearest competition. 3rd largest startup ecosystem in the world, 2nd largest English speaking population in the world, one of the largest consumer base in the world, and it's many more going forward as such. From there to present, from past to present, so what we see right now, a lot of people said COVID has been a curse, but I believe COVID has been a catalyst also to India and its growth scenarios that we see in India has the advantage to be a regional manufacturing hub after people are thinking of realignment of the supply chain assessments. And this has happened across multiple countries in the world along the Malacca Strait or the circumnavigation equatorial route, right, of the maritime route. We have seen many of the countries showing good progress in manufacturing, and India is one of them. Of course, this has some idea about those. The ports, concentration of ports and cargo was very much lopsided in India. It is at that point in time the supply chain realignment is important and happening right now in the country. But what's important is the future. What's lying ahead in front of us is the huge backbone of infrastructure that is being under development. What are we talking about? We're talking about infrastructure developments in all 4 modes of transport: road, rail, water, air. Bharatmala project, 35,000 square kilometer of development, $3 billion of investments, dedicated freight corridors, 3,360 kilometers and $10 billion. Internal waterways, 20,000 kilometers plus. Sagarmala, $67 billion of investments. Airports, 100 plus in developments. All these is under plan, and right now probably you'll see a few of those also hitting the ground as such. India has the world's 2nd largest road network. India has the world's largest rail network. We are not about what we don't have. We have a lot of stuff. It's all about optimization of those things. And this is also what's happening in the logistics domain as such. Optimization. This is where we switch gear and move on to the logistics sector as such. Yes, it's about increasing efficiency and operations within the country. India needs to save the logistic cost. Logistics is a necessary evil in any project. And in a utopian situation, a manufacturer hands up, like gives the finished goods to a consumer, and there's no logistic handler in between, right? But that cannot happen. It is a component which has to stay in a warehouse, but the amount which is spent on these is always being minimized. So that's why it is a necessary evil. So we have to reduce this cost as compared to other countries. India stand at around 14% as compared to other countries which are developed economics. For example, Germany LPI 1 or Logistic Performance Index 1 country has at 8%. Do we have potentials in reducing this? This is exactly what the government is trying to do. And let us see a deep dive into the logistic cost. Overall logistic cost, if you see, once a manufacturer produces and between when the consumer consumes, it is distributed in this pie. Transportation takes up 50% of the cost. Inventory management takes up 20%. Labor, consumer goods, customer services, etc., rents, etc., all put together, rest 50%. The biggest pie, the biggest cost factor is transportation. India today relies on roadways. 60% of India's cargo minimum travels on road, which is also the costliest mode of transportation when it comes to cost per kilometer or cost per SKU, right? So it's important that has to come down, and rail is a one economic mode, so it is cheaper as compared to road. So we did some analysis internally within JLL when we were working for a project in Madhya Pradesh, and when we found out that we were doing 5,000 tons of cargo to be transported by 1,000 kilometers, and what are the costs as such, we found out that the costs are almost 50%. Transportation time is almost 50%, 45% lesser. What we are talking about, that we are talking about 2.5 full rake load can take off 200 trucks off the road. That means a project like a rail-linked logistics projects can be cheaper, faster, as well as cleaner. So let's deep dive a bit into the rail plan, national rail plan. The modal share right now is close to around 27% for rail and mostly for bulk cargo. Right now it's happening, and it is expected to take it to 45% of modal share by 2030, and we are very much in line when we talk about the DFCs in plan, all other rail plans which are there. I've tried to map that in the map also for you for your better understanding in terms of what's happening in these locations. But what's more important is the commodities or the cargo that is intended to shift, we need to shift more, is basically these two pieces, BOG and containers, box and parcels, and the containers piece. These growth, just look at the growth that the government has proposed for these two categories, from 4% to 22%, and 24% to 48%, almost double for containers, and 6 times for boxes and cargos. These are the categories or commodities which is expected to shift more, and that means we are talking about e-commerce, boxes and CUs. We are talking about e-commerce shifting to a rail mode of transport. We are talking about 3PLs taking up rail as their mode of transport in most of the cases, which is not happening. There are multiple roadblocks in the system right now in terms of pricing structure, in terms of people management, etc., which is now being handled by probably government and the integrated approach through PM Gati Shakti. A typical MMLP, just wanted to give a sketch of what it can be. A 100-acre park is not all about warehouses and it is a mix of rail siding, internal roads, internal material handling units, cold storage and warehouses, and other locations like empty container yards, etc., all put together. A typical sketch of a multimodal logistic parks with 2 sidings. 2 benefits, I already mentioned 3 benefits. It is cheaper, cleaner, faster. If you ask any supply chain manager in the country that if I can take your goods at a lesser cost and through a cleaner way and faster, who would say no to it? It's all about now the basics and the theory is all there. But it is all about having the last mile and putting it together, and for a modal shift to rail is what we need as such in this point. From here, I'll close with a bit about JLL and what we do. In the logistics and industrial team, most of you might be knowing about JLL as such. We service in the logistics and industrial, we service close to 45 cities in the country, close to 13 to 15 million square feet of warehouse leases we do every year. So till date, if you see around 90 million square feet of leasing we have done, we did do it for Amazons, Flipkarts of the world, to everybody that we know for. You would be knowing in the e-commerce space or the 3PL space, also like DHL, Kuhn & Nagel and other players as well. In the manufacturing front, we offer integrated services from concept to operation, right from conceptualization or network analysis to where to set up a plant, to find that land, do the transaction, do the project management, do the facility management, till you start your operations, from concept to operation. Last year, some of our largest deals, 12.4 million square feet, 124 acres of land transaction, market shares of 26% in the country. And we have done the largest warehouse in NCR in North for Vishal Mega Mart. We have done in South, we have done the India's largest toy manufacturing plant in terms of leasing for microplastic. We have done in East India, we have been the largest player in the warehousing and logistics spectrum with 60% market share as such. But last year our focus was tier 2 penetration in the form of cities like Siliguri and Bhubaneswar. In West India, we have been doing the most advanced retail warehouse, almost 17 meters, ASRS warehouse for Skechers in Mumbai. Some of the integrated logistics projects that we have done, this is a specialization within the logistics industrial team, which I lead along with my colleague Devashish. And our focus here is to focus on multimodal rail link logistic projects, like what we have done for my MP Warehousing and Logistic Corporation Limited for their state MMLP location selection, and fortunately we'll be closing these projects today with this year with almost 3 MMLPs in that location in the state. We have been working with JM Bakshi for their cruise terminal project in Mumbai in JNPT. We have worked across international projects also in Saudi Arabia, like including the Neom Line project, where we are handling the logistics and industrial team. So it's an integrated consulting and transaction team that we work with DP World for their bid advisory project in the FTWZ project also. And similarly for our multiple other rail link logistic projects that we have. With that, I would close this presentation and be happy to take questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Day, for an enlightening insight into MMLPs as to what they can do for us. May I request Mr. Amit Malik to kindly share his views?
Well, Naresh was saying it's a graveyard shift after lunch. Can I plug in my laptop? Okay. So initially I thought it was a panel discussion, and then I was seeing the visuals and presentations. So I asked them, during the lunch break, do you want me to link all of these? Gati Shaktis, multimodals, rail, different modes of containerization, and does that really exist? I'm going to show you something that really exists now. No PPTs. And I was speaking to Madam Anna also till the time it gets set up. The logistics talk, yes, there are different studies, but there's take a mic. I'll take this. Is it better? Sorry for that. So the NCRA study, what it does is it takes care of one-way movements. But all of us logistics professionals know it's a two-way movement. You can call it a head haul or a back haul trade. But it's ultimately how be it vessel movements, be it train movements, be it trucking movements, be it even in a warehouse. Any kind of movements. Just a second, let me, now it's all set. Okay. Let me link it. Yeah. So the logistics cost, depending on the commodities, come out to be somewhere sometimes as less as 6% in India and as high as 25%. So I'm going to give you some examples also. And how do you overcome them? It's how do you do with containerization, as what Naresh was saying? How do you make your way around policies? Because some of the things he said about steel, there's restriction on rail carriage, there's RC5, restrictive circular number 5 by Indian Railways. You can't carry the whole train with steel and other cargo. How do you mix and match? How do you create two ways of transportation? And then some classic cases where people have said that within a span of 150 kilometers, road is more competitive. Answer is yes and no. And I'll show you some case studies which have been successfully implemented in India. Yes. So, I've tried to put across, is it audible? I've tried to put across some slides in how do you offer an integrated logistics setup. Because when we are talking about multiple pieces and when we are talking about the national logistics policy, some of the factors, and if you look at the policy, what it says is, I was just putting it down, there are 30 logistics systems, 7 ministries, 1,600 data fields, and over 100 APIs which have come together to create ULIP, Unified Logistics Integrated Platform. So what basically is doing is it's integrating everything seamlessly in one framework. Primarily the basic thing, the simple thing in logistics, reduce the handover points. The moment you reduce the handover points, efficiency increases. We can have a lot of thesis, a lot of data on this, but we know when the handover points are reduced, it doesn't become a blame game. It doesn't become a margin on margin games. Efficiency increases, cost comes down, visibility increases, transparency comes in, and that's what's needed. So some of the facets we tried putting together with the Adani Logistics is how do we achieve this? And this thought process started around primarily 4 or 5 years back. And we said, let's have an integrated logistics infrastructure. You create infrastructure, you link it by various means of transportation, and that's where the term multimodal, waterways, airways, roads, railways. It includes the first mile and the last mile also, as one of the esteemed speakers was saying. Bring in innovation, some glimpses of what you saw just before that, and then marry it with the markets. And you can use multiple forces. You can use from MMLPs, you can have different types of grain silos, as previously was said, warehousing, because in any supply chain you need to have some buffers, and warehouse basically acts as a buffer between a production and a consumption center. Nothing more, nothing less. And how do you basically ensure that to the consumption center and between the consumption and the production center, everything moves seamlessly? So, basic components of a supply chain, MMLPs, terminals. MMLPs can be from 100 acres to 1400 acres. Pre-nomination that needs to be there needs to have more than one mode of transportation, multi. Road, rail, preferably air or even coastal, waterways also. Needs to have warehousing. Can be built to suit, can be common usage. Needs to have other value-added services. Needs to be able to provide first mile, last mile connectivities, be it containers, be it non-containers. Bulk, liquids, any type of movements, food grains. And then in rail logistics also, it becomes a very specialized field. some of the things you can do in containers. Now, most of us out here from the shipping background, I myself have spent a big part of my career doing containerized transportation, designing networks, running, managing ports in India, managing supply chains for the world's biggest brands on a stock level basis, and now into infrastructure logistics. It's all about putting all these pieces together. Then we forget one more thing also. We get too perplexed with something that catches our attention. There are certain things you can't containerize, or you can't put in a normal ISO containers. There's still a lot of coal, iron ore that moves, so you have to design different solutions for them. They use the bulk modes of transportation. Then there are the OEMs, auto modes. Naresh was mentioning about something, but when you have to transport these in bulk, 400 cars in one go, 330 cars in one go for exports. How do you do that? There are players who can give you full train loads. How do you manage that? The last one is, what's the scale of movement of food grains? What you see, the bottommost picture is actual picture of India. It replaces the normal mandis in India, and these are the grain silos where the wastage is less than 0.5%. And these are bulk trains that move grains in bulk from one part of the country to another. And then first and last mile connectivity. And what Madam Vandana was saying with the airports, now linking all of this with the last mode, which is relatively not linked together, is the air cargo. That is why air freight stations. In fact, in the policies, it's already there that most of the ICDs can be linked to the airports nearby. So you can have a bond-to-bond movements. In fact, in 2017, here in Calcutta did a pioneering work on air cargo logistics, where the exports of Bangladesh for customers like Zara and M&S, because of the congestion at the Dhaka airport, there was an air corridor that was created, where Kolkata airspace was used. So you can imagine now this innovation and supply chain is extending across national boundaries. So when we put it up this, we said, let's go into containerized mode. So we today run 42 trains, number rising, 7 trains for agris, that is pure grain movements, 39 bulk trains, and every month the number increases, and 3 trains for pure auto movements, 13 MMLPs, and I visually put it out there, because it's a thing about putting MMLPs. It's like if you can visualize the map of India, it's putting hubs and spokes throughout the country. We talk about the coastline of India being 7,500 kilometers, 8,000 kilometers, but what about the rest of the country? Length and breadth. If you consider from Mundra to Kolkata, what's the distance? Any guesses? 3,000 kilometers plus. That's the breadth of our country. How do we optimize all of this? Hubs and spokes. How do we make world-class infrastructure, warehousing, grade A? I'm not talking about godowns. How do we ensure that we have food reliability? How much of our grain gets wasted? You have heard various numbers. I've also heard numbers. Any guesses? What's the food wastage in India? Percentage-wise, some rough numbers, please. 20%? It's close to between 25 and 30%. Our food grain gets wasted. And if it gets down to 0.5%, imagine, that's another food revolution in the country. This is some of the growth story numbers. We will keep on investing in infrastructure. We are investing. So the growth, when we are talking about infrastructure in India, we should not speak about we are growing organically with 7%, 8%, 10%. It should be 10x, 20x, 30x. That's the kind of infrastructure growth India needs. Yes, real solutions. Naresh, your favorite double stack? In fact, we use all the modes. We use dwarf containers, The name of the place in Vapi is called Tomb. That's our latest MMLP.
Sanjam.
Sanjam is the station. Then, dwarf containers, we also use coil transportation. And then we also use containers for transporting cars which have smaller quantities, not when you have big. So there are specially designed cassettes. So you can optimize on trains. Then there are customers for when you're talking about the steel prices, 45, 75 rupees. What do steel plants need as a basic raw material for coal? Coal needs to go in. Where's the rolling stock? So in order to make sure the supply chain is uninterrupted, you need to ensure that the availability of raw materials is instant. So let's say it lands at the port in Dhamra, coal comes in. Immediately there are dedicated trains to take it to Jamshedpur, picks up the finished material, brings it back. The supply chain is perfect. So that is where bulk trains under GPWIS policy comes in. Grain silos I spoke to you about, these are actual pictures. And the last one are the auto trains. Very similar to ro-ro vessels. Roll on, roll off. So this is an extension of the ro-ro vessels inland. So it basically is an extension which you can see ro-ro vessels coming to our shores. These ro-ro trains at the customer's doorstep, seamless integration. This is just our network. We are running close to 90 circuits today, pan-India. This is not Indian Railways. These are these trains which are running these circuits, going east-west, north-south, central India. And everything is served by MMLPs. It's an hub and spoke policy. Containerized movement, bulk movement, after movements, grain movements, depending on the customer requirements. Customer centricity, customer supply chain requirements, that's the key. And then you design supply chain solutions around it, with MMLPs being the hub. So for a customer, what it means, one-stop shop, handover points are reduced, margins on margins are not there, because if a supply chain is divided into different activities, every activity is a business, every business needs to make money, so every activity will charge margins. So at the end of the supply chain, from A to Z, A to B, margin, B to C, margin, C to D, margin. The margin builds up. Logistics cost builds up. Visually, these are the MMLPs working. And this is of last financial year. There are 34 more project sites which are in operations. It's about creating those hubs and spokes throughout the length and breadth of the country. The potential is immense. Specifically, domestic rail. When everybody forgets, when containerization comes in, containerization is only 5.6% of total Indian Railways movement. 94.4% is bulk, out of which 50% is coal. And we are talking about a modal shift. The modal shift will come from these kind of solutions. You can have open top, you can have side access, you can side and end door coil trainers. You have to design solutions for the customers. As we use ceramics, yes, everywhere. Do we realize today that India is the second biggest ceramics producer in the world? How many people are aware of Morbi? We are giving a tough time to China. The story goes from ceramics of Italy to China and then to Morbi. And Morbi is 150, 200 kilometers away from the ports of Mundra. Everything was by road. So, all of you are supply chain experts and professionals. Would a rail transportation, rail solution make a sense out there? I'm just asking a question. Will it, when the lead distance is 150 kilometers? Old studies, no. Actual case study, yes. And how do you do it? You don't only give a rail solution to a customer. You give an integrated. I'm going to pick up your container from the port empty. I'm going to bring it across to my MMLP in Morbi. I'm going to give it to your factory for stuffing. You stuff it, I bring it back, and within the same day I rail it out and make it back to the port. One rate, one SLA, one point of contact. And cost doesn't increase. Today there are daily trains running between Morbi and Mundra. And now we are talking about not a daily cutoff, we are talking about twice a day cutoffs. It's the biggest road to rail conversion the country has ever seen. And you can do this provided there is an industrial clusters. So wherever there are industrial clusters, distance of 150, 200 kilometers is not a barrier anymore. I added this slide up because I think visually it makes more sense. How do you create the MMLP space? Some of these MMLPs which are under construction, like in Ahmedabad, Virochannagar, will be one of the world's largest MMLPs spanning across 1,400 acres. 200 acres construction going on in phase 1. We'll have an airstrip in the final phases and SEZ also. So when we are envisioning these logistics park, we should not envision it just purely from what we see today as the needs. We need to basically see what if the cargo needs, not to go to the airport, needs a separate freighter to come in out here. That thing will come in 5 years from now. What if it needs a processing zone? What if it needs another 10 million square feet of grade A warehousing? We need to start thinking about infrastructure not for 5 years plan, but at least 20 to 25 years ahead. So different type. When I say MMLPs, I say containers. It can handle all commodities. Steel coils, bulk cargo, automobiles, cement, chemicals, grain. These are actual pictures. So this is the kind of cargoes and supply chain solutions we have been designing for the customers when we talk about MMLPs. And then warehousing, building, these are some of the operational warehousing, and another 10 million square feet is under construction. Will be 60 million square feet of grade A warehousing available for the customers by 2025. Somebody mentioned about trucking solutions. So we said, yes, makes sense. So today we are running a fleet of 1,000 trucks providing first mile and last mile connectivity to customers, one-stop shops. Customer is happy, their costs are not going up. They have one phase to basically watch out for their SLAs, and their life becomes simple, and their cost of logistics comes down. The last thing, this is not possible without technology, sorry. If we have to run these integrated solutions, we have to integrate with ULIP, we have to integrate with port community systems, customs, IceGate, EDI, and other global systems. You need a complete control and command centers. You need to have control towers. You need to have your trains running in sync with your terminals running in sync with your trucking solutions running in sync with your trains and warehouses, and ultimately everything running in sync with each of the customer's needs. Humanly on Excel sheets not possible. I remember my days as a trainee in the port of Nhava Sheva. And as a trainee, I was told about T cards. The yard management used to be done on T cards, physical T cards. This container is here, this container is here, this container is here. So I learned T cards, yard management. Today when we talk about T cards, people will laugh at us because it's not possible to manage thousands of containers on T cards on a wall. You need systems. You need control towers, you need dashboards. So you need to have an operational control system, container management system, workforce integrated with Salesforce, your customers, your terminal operatings, trucking, trackings integrated into one. So build these modules, and there's a central command center for all of these operations. 11 MMLPs, 1,000 trucks, 91 trains, and another 100 on order, all running through an integrated command and control center. It's not there where we want to be, but I think we are at least, we set up a basic control and command center. And then analytics and AI is going to be built on top of it. I know this is the next session you have, but no growth without sustainability. So we have promised ourselves that as Adani Ports and Logistics, we will be a carbon neutral company by 2025. And different solutions, rainwater harvesting, solar power, single use, road to rail conversions. Actually, the biggest of these is road to rail conversions in India. So when somebody asks me, who are your biggest competitors? Other container train operators? Other railway operators? Other warehouses operators? Other trucking operators? I said, no, absolutely not. When it comes to this, the competition is providing a single end-to-end solution to a customer and primarily aiming from road to rail. So here rail is not my competition, it's basically road, and then combining and giving them an integrated product to the customers. And that's where it ends, and providing them a sustainable solution. That's all from my end. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Amit. I think since we are already threatening the sustainability of the sustainability session, we shall quickly have a couple of questions before we wind up for the evening, for this session. Any questions, please? All right. If not, I just had a question which I wanted to parry to the panel. We have talked about how the MLPs are going to change the logistic ecosystem in the days ahead. However, we are aware that there are certain regulatory challenges which are, I should not use the word, but which are infecting this particular aim. And there are serious challenges which are still not worked out between various ministries. Specifically, let's talk about the railway ministry. We talk about the Gati Shakti cargo terminal policy which they've evolved. So there are certain inconsistencies which are there. I know it's a work in progress, but do you really feel that the Gati Shakti initiative in that sense is matching up with these independent initiatives, or do you think there's some work to be done? We'll start with Mr. Naresh, please.
Basically, maybe 2-3 days back, there was a news in newspaper that MMLPs, as he's talking about, there is not much of the traction for the investment in these concepts. Primarily because of the land, such a big parcel of land available, and then connecting with rail is a tremendous task. Railways itself is trying from last 4 to 5 years that we will set up at least 100 rail link terminals in the private sector, but without much of a success. As he is rightly telling that there are many things which have to come up from regulatory point of view or from time-bound solutions to the problems faced by the developer. So that is yet to come. I think that we may take some time.
Okay. So I do agree that there are roadblocks at this point in time. But if you ask me, I think we are crossing the bridges one at a time. And we are seeing this in our projects also, where we are working in MP, where we had that opportunity to do a certain kind of amalgamation of various verticals and ministries and departments to come together, like rail, the state government, and the industrial development authority. It is working. I'm not saying it is working in perfect harmony, but they have started the journey of working together and working with a common goal.
Amit?
Yes. I think it works, and I was looking at some numbers, and I'll give you, earlier, a PFT approval, which is a private freight terminal approval, used to take 122 days if everything goes fine. Now that approval comes in less than 62 days, and there is a milestone for each of these activities. Secondly, you never used to know where your file is, or where now everything is digitized. I'm not talking about digitization, I'm talking about digitized. So at least you know where the files are and what is the issues. And people have to make sure those issues or notings, as what it is called, have to be resolved within the given time, be it an ESP framework, be it an IPA, anything of that sort. And when we ourselves, when we mapped it, and I know there are challenges getting contiguous pieces of rail linked, rail side. The beautiful thing in the GCT is also it offers railway terminals which are already existing and which makes sense where the private investment can come in and create terminals. So there's a willingness. There's transparency, and the effects of this, we can see it in the coming days itself. We are already seeing the effects on the approval processes and the willingness of the ministries to work. The railways is very, very proactive. In fact, so many changes by the RDSO on different types of road to rail conversions I haven't seen in the last 2 to 3 years. So road to rail conversions, GCT policies, transparency, willingness of the departments, everything is basically getting, it's pointing all out in the right direction, I would say.
Thank you. Yeah,
That
please.
is, I think a very relevant point you've raised, and a reason behind it is also an artificial barrier which we have created in terms of MMLPs have to qualify for a 100-acre land parcel area. So, in fact, I would like to ask Mr. Malik, why do we say that we need a 100-acre land parcel, which basically creates an entry barrier, whereas we have multiple, in fact, DP World is operating, Pristine is operating, multiple big terminals which might not be 100 acres, but they are, in fact, even today they are underutilized, and they have within 50 acres, they can do much, much more work. In fact, for 100 acres, most of the land is being used for other services, maybe the demand for it. And we are being forced to move away from the actual catchment area because of this 100 acre. And in fact, I had a deliberation with Mr. Chandranath before when MP was doing, and I was raising the same point that why are we raising an entry barrier of 100 acres? So I think that should be done away with, and which will really help the further proliferation of so-called MMLPs. I think we operate an MMLP in Siliguri, which is not 100 acres, but in fact it is much more effective than a proposed MMLP which is supposed to come up in Jogigopa, which caters to a largely North Bengal and gateway to the northeast area, which will be many, many years away maybe. I don't know, that's our view.
Valid point. See, what we do is when we talk about firstly, the preconceived notion, and my notion was also there before 4.5 years back, before I moved into this role, coming from a completely liner background. I used to relate MMLPs with ICDs or PFTs, inland container depot, an extension of a port, doing EXIM cargo, putting containers on the train, loading containers on the train, discharging from the train, meeting a cutoff at a vessel at the port. Very little movements of a PFT. Then the PFT concept came in, domestic movement. Very few players today are doing domestic movements. If you see the amount of domestic movements which are done by containers, it's hardly anything. Everybody's focus is on EXIM. Then it becomes an ICD. For an ICD, you don't require 100 acres. The concept is moving when we are thinking 25 years ahead. Does customers require built-to-suit warehouses? Do customers require different types of warehousing? Do customer requires value-added services? If you're serving the first mile and the last mile, we are going to do the parking. We are going to park the trucks. You're not going to park it on the roads where the parking space is there. Tomorrow, would they require a special economic zone for processing? So all these things are coming in, and that's where I think the number of 100 acres. But if we go across the world, this is where we have seen it becomes a logistics hub. It no longer becomes a rail terminal. Rail is just one of the medium and modes. It becomes a logistics hub which is served by rail, road, and if there's waterways nearby, waterways also, and air if possible. And this is where a discussion happens. We call multi. Multi means, I don't know in English sense, I tried it with Oxford Dictionary also. Is it more than 2 or more than 3? Then it should be bimodal. Multi actually, went through different books and says more than 2. So when we are talking multimodal, we are talking about more than rail, road, and air then. Then you require all of this. But you have to think 25 years ahead. Think 25 years ahead. Like when the Bombay Old Port was there, I remember those days. I was a trainee, and JNPT had come up. Oh, JNPCT is there, and then one terminal, P&O Ports, which is today NSCCT DP. What happened suddenly? 2004-5 crisis. CFSs were full, port meltdown. Okay, GTI, JNPCT is still working. Oh, another DMCT terminals. Terminals are still full. Nobody could have anticipated that kind of a growth. And it's a question of how much. Hajra Sahib is a witness to all of this. Sir, 15 years, it has transformed completely. So, and the speed is increasing, not by 1x, 2x fast forward, it's 5x, 10x. The growth rates are accelerating. So we need to envision and saying what can be done. And in certain places that can't be done, it can't be done.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I have stirred a hornet's nest, so I shall stop it here itself. But thank you so much for your valued views. I'm grateful to the entire panel. In the end, it will suffice to surmise to say that MLPs are here to stay, and we should look at it at the long term, and we should really see how we can synergize its existence into our business model, because that's where the future is. And I'm sure the regulatory framework will also align with the days to come. Thank you all for participating in the panel. I'm grateful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yes, it was indeed a very engaging session. May I now request Mr. Shubhrang Srivastav to hand over a token of appreciation on behalf of the Chamber to Mr. Naresh Kumar, Director, Kalyani Cast Tech Limited. To Mr. Chandranath De, India Head Operations Business Development, Industrial Consulting and Integrated Logistics, JLL India. And to Mr. Amit Malik, Senior VP, Adani Logistics, Vertical Adani Ports and SEZ. Thank you so much.